bit above the clouds level. Here you can see a very good example of how big was a tree. Because we did literally see nothing. We have very early breakfast today, built by Vietnamese by themselves. I think this is like a few hundred years old. Like that. We have very early breakfast today, just classical noodles at 4 a.m. and going to the mountains. We arrived finally on our destination. Our driver, our friend, he just called all the gods here. Bah, bah, bah. Found the first trees. Here were pretty small, but there was a big before. I just cut it down. But there are way bigger, of course. It's just the bushes. Here you can see a very good example of how big was a tree, because in very beginning, like it's like that. But this was cut down just for easy cropping, easy harvesting. So you see the trees. And there's no buds already, they just harvested for Ya Bao tea and for dragon cloak tea. But even already, yeah, small young buds already coming in from this, but regularly they do white tea or silver tips or silver needles, how it's called. In Yunnan we call it buds Da Bai Hao or Gushu in Ya, silver needle from the ancient trees. Wow! I like when I have opportunity to be a little bit above the clouds level. Here's elevation 2000, as I told, and we see what in China called Yunhai, or sea of the clouds. Very, very, very beautiful view. Under this rock, regularly farmers take a rest. They create kind of a resting place from a fern, and also here's a fireplace, and sometimes they even take over night stay, because some farmers take from other villages which are pretty far from here, so we just stay here while we are harvesting the buds. In Vietnamese, this flower called aqui. I don't know how it's in English, but looks very beautiful and have a smell like a narcissus. But the leaves looks like rhododendron. I have no idea, but because this is a high mountain area, well, it's actually rhododendron elevation, so it possibly can be like some similar plant. In Hanoi we bought 2 cups, maybe it's about 20th of 20th century, maybe a bit later, but this is sake cups from Japan, and on the bottom there is a like a lens and photography of erotic miniature of a lady. Looks interesting, and when you use it for tea, it's still you see the picture when you fill the cup. When the cup is empty, you don't see the picture. Looks pretty interesting. Fun fact, just now here, this land, it not belongs to everyone. It's actually any farmer can harvest the tree, can harvest the buds. So local farmers just arrive, and some different families just picking the leaves. Like these two, we just gathered them, found them here, and just look how they pick the leaves. Now we want to pick buds for Ya Bao tea. Here's a much bigger trees. I think this is like a few hundred years old, maybe almost 400, 500, 600 something. Like this is very big, and the farmers cut them a little bit on the top. But because of this, some trees not survived, some survived, and they harvested regularly. They harvest only the buds, like Ya Bao. Like here we see also silver needles already come, like young buds. Pretty tasty. Climbing these trees is pretty tricky idea, but they're way bigger, and there is a huge forest of those trees. as I expected, here the most population is Yao minority. In Vietnamese we're called Yao, but still it's Yao minority, or in Chinese it will be Yao Zhu. And I was actually on the Chinese side of this border in Malipo, and in Malipo, Wenshan area, they also say minority living and also do tea a lot. And I even tried the Vietnamese tea because also Chinese from that area bought the tea from Vietnam and sell in China. Now we're already harvesting the second harvest, which is comes in February, but the first harvest is in December. So for Ya Bao, the first Ya Bao harvested in December, after that February, and after that silver needles, white tea, and after that we harvest already Shen Puer material for Shen Puer, like 1 leaf or 2 leaf and 1 bud flash. For work half of a day, and they just harvest maybe around 300, 500 grams only. And imagine like this amount for working like half of a day. It's pretty difficult and small amount, which is why also the tea from the buds more expensive, and also you need to climb the tree sometimes. Like this tree is not a big tree, but when it's a big tree you need to climb on it, and still it's pretty difficult work. Yeah, and as I asked lady, and lady said that now she don't sell this tea, she just harvest for themselves because they also like to drink it, and she especially came like to harvest 2-3 days, and after have some tea for themselves to drink. So my mission is to climb on any tree, on any place I go. So now I also want to feel how it looks like over here. Pretty risky thing actually, but good. Sadly, here most of farmers still didn't know that don't know the value of the trees. This is why they sometimes cut it pretty low. But in general, step by step, they also learn the same like in China, to harvest like separately from the older trees, because of course from the older trees the tea is more valuable, and not only because of the like, oh, it's tea from old trees, but also because of the taste and benefits, because for example root system are more bigger from bigger trees, and also the flavor are different and more rich and more fragrant and so on. So you can literally compare the tree if you harvest the tea from only from the old trees, and from the young ones it will be really different. Wow, yeah, we found the biggest tree over here. This is also tea tree. And how do I found it? Because I see the branch we just grow through, and also a few branches up a little bit, and we see that it's actually bud, and it's tea leaf. Yeah, it's literally tea. But I have an idea that potentially this just a seed from the tea fall into that tree and it grow through it. Or because if you look up, we see that the leaves on the main tree is completely different. So it's a tea tree that grows on other bigger tree. Very interesting. And here you also see the difference in color of the pile of the tree, because this mother tree is different from the tea tree. So here we see this is a tea tree, this is not. Very interesting. Vietnamese economy really grow last years, and this means that government have money, and this means the government invest a lot in infrastructure projects, like building the roads in very rural, remote areas. They're actually nothing special, just villages. There's not in any industry or any big city, whatever. It's good, but for us it's a little bit stressful because we have very low clearance car, and all the time passing through all this construction take us few hours longer than expected. Still, we are happy that economy grow. It means that maybe in close years there will be more accessibility, more comfortable travel across these areas. Yeah, now we just see, and actually I have a pretty interesting image about my travels in China, but it was pretty similar around 12 years ago in China, maybe 13 years ago when I just started traveling around. And now we see how also Vietnamese economy start growing similar to Chinese economy, and they also invest similar into infrastructure a lot, as it actually was in China also. Also, we met a lot of European tourists over here, which was for me most surprising, because in China you don't see Europeans in these areas, and also actually the same areas on the border with China, way more controlled, way more checkpoints and so on. Even when we was on Malipo, just the opposite side of the border, we was checked 2-3 times by police, like, what are you doing here? But here a lot of Europeans. And why do they came here? Because here's a lot of rice terrace fields, and it's pretty attractive, especially in the season. Now not the season, but in the season it's attractive, and people have just promoted this area, and people are traveling around, sightseeing. Yeah, it's pretty cool here. We arrived at the next factory. This is a small farmer production. They focused on dragon claw, which is this one. Very smelly one. Only 2 pans of those. And the second one is Ya Bao, which we just today harvested, not so far from here. And yeah, and this one harvested like 2 days ago and already dried. Sometimes we use this machine to dry, sometimes we use just a sun dry, but taste of machine a little bit better from my personal experience, what we tried here. I wait for a farmer who just in the mountains want to bring new material. Yeah, so wait for him and maybe drink some tea, continue our research. Typical farmer production. Dryer, roaster for withering, a room for fermentation, just a small farm, but still, yeah, it's very convenient, and they still have some place to do some tea, but regularly the factories like that don't do the big amount. They just do like maybe one village, 10-15 families, help them to harvest the leaves. That's it. While we waited for the owner of the factory, we decided to try the tea. Just brought the pan with just freshly dried Ya Bao from the factory. Actually, it's better to stir it a little bit after, but we also decided to drink. Here, 2 local guys just playing some game. I don't know what kind of, but it's funny. Like don't look what we're doing now, and just don't care. Very relaxing tea. You see my state. Just to drink a little bit of white tea and feel. like that. Oh, late evening, and the tea pickers just came from the mountains, so we harvest like all day long almost, and a few people only gathered one sack of the butts, and now we will weight it, and yeah, and the farmer will pay for tea pickers for their work. Yeah, and this case it will be put here, and after that go for processing. Also very important to not only just to weight the tea, but also to check the quality. So this is why the owner of the factory, who also get the material, he check the quality of the leaves, not the buds in this case. Yeah. Ya Bao. 30 kg. So each person 1 kg. So 30 people. So yeah, so it's more than 30 people actually gathered, because more than 30 kg. So whole day work, only 1 kg of these buds. This is actually why the price. So imagine like 30 people works to get only 1 bag of these buds, 30 kilograms. So as soon as tea is ready for next processing, the processing is very simple. It's like 3 days sun drying, actually in the shade or under direct sunlight if needed. The master can also do cold drying, kind of. It's very low temperature drying, which we just see in the shelf on the factory, the machine for drying. So it takes around 40 hours, maybe 2 days, and the temperature slowly increase from 30 to 60, so not too high, to keep all the benefits of the tea. So finally we have tea which have benefits of pu'er and benefits of white tea. Ya Bao is pretty special. It's early bud, because as I also previously explained, we have this bud, and only after the harvesting of Shen pu'er coming, maybe a month later. So we have a very early tea. The earliest tea is Dragon Claw and Ya Bao. In the morning, after chilling in the shade on the factory, the buds placed here on the bamboo pans under the sunlight, Now it's pretty cloudy, so it's good, not too strong direct sunlight. And regularly during that weather they can put it for around 1 day, and after that then it's ready, that's semi-process. They put it for a cold temperature, so it may be drying from 40 to 60 degrees to a machine for drying. It can be done differently. You can dry it only under the sunlight. In this case it takes more few days, or you dry 1 day under the sun and after that on the machine. For me, the taste of those which was finalized drying on the machine, actually more flavor and more fresh, how to say, but yeah, it's personal still. But traditionally before, of course, it was only sun dried and no any machine needed. But also now, for example, if it's raining, you can spoil a lot of tea just because you don't have a possibility to dry. You need the sunlight. So this is why, if you talk about how to say, to don't lose the tea, we still need to have a machine. Because, for example, if it's rain started, so you just have no possibility to dry. So already packed some samples for us, U9 size of samples actually, yeah. And yeah, and we will bring some good Vietnamese tea. This wonderful 2-year renovation program of Vietnam roads looks like that. Yeah, so we really hope that maybe a year later or maybe 2 years later it will be more better than now, because actually it's almost undrivable on our Kia Rio or kind of Kia Rio car. Our clearance is really low, and during like 2 hours half maybe even, we drive no more than maybe 30 kilometers or something. So our speed is 15 kilometers an hour. Yeah, and you hear the sounds. Yeah, this is how it goes. Because we did literally see nothing. Oh wow. Drive motorbikes also here. Okay, but we hope that 5.4 kilometers later we will have something better. We pray for it. We are on the way to our next destination. It's villages on the border with Laos. From our last location we need to travel maybe around 8 hours almost, because also the road conditions, you've seen how was it. It was completely destroyed, and all our low clearance car, it was a little bit tricky, but we passed. Look at our beautiful car. We will need 3-4 more hours to arrive at the place. Today we stay in one small city nearby the area, and after tomorrow go to the mountains. Yeah, so this is the plan for today, just a transfer. And of course during the way we just drink tea. A lot of people ask me, oh, how do you drink tea on the way? It's like pretty like uncomfortable and so on. How you carry all this expensive teaware? Very easy actually, just a bag, fabric bag, nothing special, with a thick layer. And inside just a small Chinese towels or just bags, also fabric bags. That's it. if you carry it carefully, nothing breaks. For many years I use it as a very accessible thing. And I prefer this kind of tea drinking instead of any other. I don't use all these POE bay or teapots or like just a cup and max. I don't like it. This is away. Everywhere, doesn't matter. In a plane or all around, everywhere. You have your cups, you enjoy your tea. During a road, often I buy some teaware, and sometimes I have some like this Japanese antique stuff I found in Hanoi, and so on. So we're just enjoying the tea. This is Suigang village, and actually this village may be one of the most famous in Vietnam for tea tourism. So especially organized a kind of homestays and also even tea culture center, and also some program for tourism. Even here you can fry the tea, but now it's not the season, so this is why not so many tourists. But people just came here to pick the tea from the ancient tea trees, because here's a lot of thousands of those, pretty big tea mountain. Travel around, walk to some places and so on. But actually the main thing that it's pretty touristy here. So for me actually, yeah, it's still beautiful place and it's good to visit, I think, but I prefer more wild places where you can find something more special, and also especially the atmosphere, because when you stay in a crowded and there is like cars all around, tourist groups, you don't feel too strong connection with nature. But after the city, if you like live in the capital or in Hanoi, arrive here is like arrive to a beautiful nature. So I think it's still good. Now we decided to drink a cup of tea near the oldest tea tree in Suigang. And this tree is more than 500 years old. Actually, it was researched by Soviet scientists, maybe around a few decades ago. It's a very beautiful example of how shape of the tree are formed, because you see all the branches comes horizontally and after that straight to top. So it's very comfortable for picking, and also very comfortable for climbing the tree, because actually if tea tree grow in the wild, of course it just go very high, tall, and really wild tea trees people need to climb. It's very risky, but here it just was already in the garden for many centuries. So this is why during this cutting each year they create a kind of a crop like that, which is also pretty common for Chinese old tea gardens, for example on Mountain Bulan and other tea mountains, Mountain Nanno. Yeah, so it's really interesting to try some tea from here. Also I need to say that this land belongs to one family, so it's a private land, and the owners created really beautiful garden and even a small outdoor tea house where you can enjoy tea and enjoy a beautiful view on the mountain outside. So very scenic place. Very funny that just some tourists came here, local people, and I give them a place to make a photo around the tree, because near the tree, because I just sit here and drink tea, and we just sit around our small tea place and make a photo with our tea, like we drink tea. I think, wow, great idea! Like let's also use it for a future. So we can work here as attractive creative attraction performances.
In this village, mostly also local minorities living, and this minorities is a Hmong minority. Now, lady, she's sewing traditional sewing, and they use for dressing or for making small bags or some other decoration, whatever. But you can see that it's a little bit different from what we see in Kazan. Actually, the most two big minor groups, it's Hmongs and Yao, and here is mostly Hmongs in this area.
Just a little bit downstairs, we found huge tea plantations. I think that mostly tea for tourists upstairs came from this place, because who will spend ancient tree material for tourists? I think it's come from here, only 20 minutes driving, but still a beautiful scenic view. And all around you see also trees. This is eucalypt trees, which used for planting actually the wood. So they just use the leaves for essential oils or some other materials, and the wood use it for making just sourcing of wood. So actually they grow it for 8 years or something, cut, and after that plant the trees again. So it's kind of recyclable tree. Most typical Vietnamese rice fields. Of course, terrace rice fields are more beautiful than these ones, but still pretty beautiful. I like the view, the mountains, and I like it still. And here in northern Vietnam, mostly the rice comes for local consumption, but the southern part is more for export. And actually, Vietnam is one of the two biggest exporters. Thailand and Vietnam all the time compete with each other for export of the rice. But still here is a local rice mostly. Vietnam have 3 big hydroelectric power stations, and this one was built in the middle of the river Sonda, built by Vietnamese by themselves. The lower one, which is close to the sea, is built by Soviet Union, but now Vietnamese also built by themselves. And actually this power plant produced 30% of all Vietnamese electricity. So actually Vietnam is pretty green in terms of generating power.